Hey guys, it's Paige. Welcome back for another video, and today I am going to be discussing the Bechdel? I don't know. I can't pronounce words, as you know. The Bechdel test. So let's get started. So the Bechdel test is basically a test that proves whether the females of a film, book, comic strip, what have you, I guess are, human-like. If you look at this test, it's actually quite simple. Basically, all you have to do is find a scene with two named, that's one of the key points, named female characters, two of them alone in a scene, and they must be discussing something other than a male, which sounds pretty simple on paper, right? Well, when I figured this out yesterday, I've known it for a while, but it's been in like the recesses of my brain with the move. The house isn't looking so good, that's why I've had to move positions, if you're wondering. But when I rediscovered it yesterday, I took probably a couple hours to think about the books I read, and one, it was very hard to remember if two female characters had a scene in which they talked about something other than a man. And then two, when me and my group of friends figured out some books that are our favorites didn't really pass this test, we were actually quite sad. Because while a female character in a book might appear to be very strong and very empowering, when you put her in a scene with another woman and all they do is talk about a man, that's, they can be talking about a variety of other things. I know me and my friends, when we get together, or me and just one friend get together, we don't talk about men. Sometimes we do. Sometimes men talk about females. I mean, it happens. But we talk about other things. I know yesterday I had a very long discussion about some political things with another female. I mean, that's how females are. We're just like men. Who knew? But yeah, so very disheartening when I figured out that a lot of books that were my favorite, that I love to read, might not have passed this test. So I'm going to go through, I think I have 6. No, I have 5. Okay, so I'm going to go through 5 books that I actually found on my shelves that I believe pass or fail the Bechdel test. And because of the move, some of these books that I have gotten packed away, but I might have the sequel, so bear with me. I'm showing the wrong book. I'm sorry. The move. I'm going to blame the move. So the first one that we have is Six of Crows. I packed away Six of Crows, so I have Crooked Kingdom in its place. It's fine. It's fine. Just stare at the stained pages if you have to. I believe, almost lost it. I believe that Six of Crows, and by extension maybe Crooked Kingdom, pass. Pass the Bechdel test. In my memory, and I actually listened to Six of Crows on an audiobook. I didn't read Six of Crows. I know the construct of reading is different to everyone, but I listened to it on audiobook. So from what I can remember, I do remember Inej and Nina having a scene. There was one in the boat where Inej got hurt, and they discuss why she hasn't gotten the Dregs tattoo, which is like a bird or something, I think. It's been a while since I've read it. Bear with me. So that would qualify that to be a pass for me. Next book I have is one of my favorites of 2018, which is Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. This just came out on the 24th of April. I really liked it. You should go check it out. And I still really like it, even though I found out that it failed. It failed the Bechdel test. I actually read this in January, so I might be a little wrong on this, but I don't remember a scene in which the main character, who is a female, talk to another named female character, which would be, I guess, her best friend is a named female character. And it didn't revolve around either the king, which is a male, or the prince, which was a male, or, you know, the best friend's father, which is another male. That's really all the conversations I remember, is that in somehow or another they revolved around men, or a male, you know, something like that, which would qualify this to be a fail on the Bechdel test. Another book that surprised me that a friend actually pointed out to me is Cinder. Cinder by Marissa Meyer is one of my favorite retelling books. It's absolutely delightful. It is a whole scientific spin on famous classic fairy tales, so definitely check them out if you want to. I thought this would actually fail because I couldn't remember a scene in which Cinder, and I haven't read any of the other books, so please don't spoil me, but I couldn't remember a scene in which Cinder talked to another female. Which one of my friends pointed out that the fairy godmother character of this book actually does have a name and is a female inspired robot. And she is a female robot. I don't know how you can be a female robot, but she was feminine in her robotness. I don't know if she identifies as female, but that's a whole other issue. She, for the purposes of this video, is a female robot. She pointed out that they did have a conversation. They did have a lot of conversations about the prince, but they also had conversations about Cinder's work that she does. She's like a mechanic in this universe. So that qualifies it as a pass. Now this one was actually really hard to figure out whether it did pass or fail the Bechdel test. It was Scythe by Neil Shusterman, because most of the story revolves around a female and a male character and their interactions with each other. Citra actually has conversations alone with Honorable Scythe Carey, and they don't discuss a male. Well, they discuss a male. They do discuss Honorable Scythe Goddard, but they also discuss Citra and her past. It goes into a lot of her backstory, and it also discusses ways to kill people. This is really out of context. If you've not read this book, you really should. It's a really good book, but it revolves around killing people. So this sounds really odd when you try to describe what happens in this book to someone that hasn't read this book. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, please read it, because I'm not crazy. I promise this book isn't crazy. I promise. Another one of my favorite books is These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. I'm pretty sure I am pronouncing her last name wrong. Someone please correct me. And this actually surprised me. It is a fail because, one, there's not a lot of scenes in which the main female character, whose name is Jo, actually privately converses with another female character. And when she does, either with her mother or her friends or one suspect in this murder mystery book, they mostly revolve around men, which is very surprising. I really love this book, and so when I was actually, right before I started filming, I was actually looking around for books, and I looked at this and I'm like, oh my god, I don't think they talked about anything besides a man between the two. Jo is a very smart and driven character on her own, and you should definitely read this book if you're into murder mysteries. It was one of my favorite books of this year. It's a bit of an older read, so you might be able to find it pretty cheap if you want to check it out, and it is a monster of a book. It is almost 500 pages, but look at the deckled edges and tell me that you don't want this book. We have Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. While there's not a lot of scenes between two female characters by themselves, there is one. That's all that's required, but there is one between Anna and the captain in which they talk about Anna's behavior, so this is a pass. I'm so thankful because Ashley Poston is one of my favorite authors now, and this book was my favorite sci-fi of this year. Then we have To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandria Christo, which is a Little Mermaid retelling, and it's actually done so well. It's not a straight copy of the Little Mermaid story that we know of, but it does have elements of the Little Mermaid while also making fun of the Little Mermaid. I like it when books that parody other books make fun of those parodied books. I'm a weirdo. But fantastic book aside, this book actually fails the Bechdel test. There's not a lot of scenes with two female characters, two named female characters, by themselves, but there is a scene between Lyra and her cousin, and there are a couple between Lyra and the Queen of the Sirens, who is her mother. I just kind of went around that. Anyways, so there are just a few little scenes, but they all talk about men or the main male This is really good. This is another bit that's going to sound weird if you've not read it. But it talks about men. It talks about killing men. It talks about ripping out men's hearts. And it talks about why they have to. So basically, they talk about men, but in a very roundabout way. It's not the classical two female characters talking about one female character's romantic interest. But because of how the story is, the two female characters, when they are in a scene together alone, they do talk about something that revolves around men. And that technically breaks the rule, so it fits. Now this book I've not read yet, but I just finished the first book of it on audiobook. Yeah, I don't know why I hesitated there. But I just finished the first book of this on audiobook. This one is Bright Burns the Night. The first one is Dark Breaks the Dawn. In Dark Breaks the Dawn, it is a Swan Lake retelling, and I say that very loosely because it was not very Swan Lakey. But it is a Swan Lake retelling about this girl who has powers and blah blah blah, saves the kingdom, all them YA tropes. It was very cheesy for me, and at the end, the last chapter is where it caught my interest. The very last chapter, guys. Very last chapter. Anyways, I'm not going to rant about that now, but throughout the whole of the book, there are not a lot of scenes, again, with two named female characters in a scene by themselves. But when there is, and it's a lot between the main character and her best friend, they're talking about a guy. And yes, it is in the classic talking about male romantic love interests. Now there is actually one scene between the main female character and her mother, but they talk about her father. they talk about her birthday, but then her father comes up. So the father is there in the conversation, which thus breaks the rule, so it fails the Bechdel test. One of my favorite 2018 reads of this year will, and probably like forever, will be Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. It's about Vikings. I think I've said enough. I know I've had a raid video about it. I won't bore you about the details. But in this book, Elin and Mira are two fighting Vikings. And while there is a love interest in this book, Mira and Elin have conversations, a lot of conversations actually. There's a lot of scenes with them together, kind of alone. And when they are alone, they sometimes they have talked about the love interest, but they have also talked about fighting and honor and, you know, stuff like that. So while it kind of skims by, it does pass the Bechdel test. Now the last one that might surprise you of this list is Grace and Fury by Tracy Bankhart. It's been advertised as a YA fantasy feminism novel. Feminism it is, in my opinion, that this fails the Bechdel test. Because of how the book is written, a lot of the scenes in which two named female characters are in a scene alone together, they are talking about men. It's not in the usual, like, love interest kind of way, but a lot of stuff that happens to the plot revolves around men and males, and so thus it has to fail. So that is it for my list of YA books that pass or fail the Bechdel test. If you think that I messed up on one, please leave a comment down below, or if you have a current read that you're surprised about now that you're looking at this and going, wow, this fails or passes the Bechdel test, leave it down below. I would like to know thoughts. There's not a lot of articles about YA books that pass or fail this test, and I would like, and I would like to do a lot more of these. So let me know your opinions down below, and thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you again. Bye!